That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
No tears, please. It's a waste of good suffering.
Fairly learned here.
Welcome to MOTN Reviews. This is Masters of the Nerdiverse Reviews, where we take a look at some of the universe's most shiniest supernovas and some that are not so brightly lit. This universal MacGuffin of a podcast can be found on iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, SoundCloud, YouTube, iHeartRadio, and Google Play. I'm, of course, your intergalactic bounty hunter known as Mike G. And with me, as always, is the slayer of the Sarlacc himself, Brian. What's going on?
Yo, what up? Glad to be back. Thank you for having me. It seems we're going to be talking one of my favorite things in the world today.
It's the Star Wars, the intergalactic rebuttals, dude.
We're going to be talking the Wars of the Stars. Yeah, man. And you know what? I'm here for it.
The galactic skirmish, my man.
It's fantastic. It's like you woke up and you were like, I'm gonna do Brian a favor. I'm gonna put him on mic with Star Wars. Thank you.
Yeah, man, this is gonna be its own Death Star, all into itself. The one hitter quitter, man. So with that, and when you say Star Wars, we could literally be talking about anything. You know what I mean? We could be talking about the Christmas special.
Oh, absolutely. The Christmas special is open season, man. Love it.
You know.
By the way, did they get that on Disney Plus?
I haven't checked. Probably.
I know there was debate about putting it on Disney Plus. Oh, that's all I know. I don't really know the scuttlebutt. But I was cruising around Disney Plus, getting ready for the review. And not being a big Disney guy, Disney Plus, not my thing.
Well, we're waiting on the new stuff, man. You can only watch Aladdin so many times.
I guess Mandalorian, I kind of forget about that, even though that's back in the shadows there, but it's absolutely worth watching.
Well, yeah, 100%. I think, not to get too far off topic, I think, given the troubles, Disney probably had some other plans in regards to available content, but, here we are.
Fair enough.
Speaking of the roads of hell being paved with good intentions, we're talking about when did this come out? 2019?
2019, December. Talking about,
Directed by J.J. Abrams. Star Wars Episode 9. Rise of the Skywalker, man.
Yeah, man. A little J.J. Abrams back. Star Wars, Rise of the Skywalker. The last chapter.
The last chapter of the Skywalker
saga.
Saga, dude. Oh my goodness.
Stoked.
We did a podcast for The Last Jedi many, many moons ago with my big bro Darren. And the sound quality wasn't that great, but we had a very good discussion about what the questions that movie opened up, the possibilities it left in the minds of the fandom and the backlash that it created. And in retrospect, after watching this movie now multiple times, it kind of feels like those questions that anticipation kind of fell on deaf ears, Before we get really started, I will preface this with saying that I'm going to try my best to make this a fair review. I don't want it to be too negative. I don't want it to be too positive. I want to rate this movie on its own merit, though it's so easy to go to the dark side of the Force with this one, in my opinion. Brian, what's your general history with this movie?
My general history with this movie is this is my third watch, and a little bit of background. I have 4 watches into The Force Awakens, 3 watches into The Last Jedi, and now I'm 3 watches into Rise of Skywalker. And my background is fairly simple. I was stoked for this movie. I'm stoked to talk about this movie. And my initial watch of this movie is not nearly as enthusiastic as I am right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I want to say that my background with this movie has been swayed by Corona flavored colored glasses. This movie now isn't necessarily as bad as it was then, since we are so grateful for just everything. And I just want to put that out there because for me, it does come into play a little bit. Because, you know, I haven't been to a movie in a very long time. Actually, this was the last movie I saw in a movie theater, now that I think about it.
No, your response and general reaction to this film has been adjusted just for the overall, reflection of life in into itself. Like the idea that every day is precious kind of enhances this movie.
I'm going to say that it's not as bad as it was because yes, maybe things are a tad bit more precious. Maybe we recognize a tad bit more of the effort and work that goes into things, or at least I do. 2020 has been a beast, and you think about December 2019, that was a really fun time.
Yeah.
So we're like going to see Rise of Skywalker, and you think about the anticipation. I mean, have you been anticipating anything?
With this movie, and it's funny, this movie, and I wanted to mention this, has kind of the end game effect where your imagination will create a movie that this movie can never be as good as in your head. You know what I mean? Because of all the stakes that are tied to it, it was never going to reach your own expectation of performance, right? This is the end of the Skywalker saga, a saga that spanned my father's generation and my generation, with the love of Star Wars. And it's like, what do you expect? Right? Like and did this movie meet that expectation? And like you said, on first viewing, it's a hard no.
Hard no on first viewing. Hard no. And I'm gonna say Last of the Jedi, same type of gut reaction. Not as hard of a no. Hard no for this because parts of it weren't well made. But hard no based on what I had seen versus expectations.
And that's the thing, is that's kind of my general feeling going into this movie, is that I didn't see it in the theaters because I understood kind of what I saw. I heard the hoofbeats, down the road, and I wanted to really come at it with unjaded eyes. Because when this movie was launched, it was already in controversy. People were that the script leaked for this movie, and people already were giving it negative connotations, and it was adjusting many of the atmosphere going into this movie. You know what I mean? It wasn't. I actually can't tell you about that going forward because after The Last Jedi, I cut myself off. That was like Luke. I'm like, oh no, I'm just gonna be done with the Force until my eyes lay footage on it. So I didn't even know the script leaked. Yeah, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on with this movie before it came out, and the present, and kind of leading into the preparation and the anticipation for this movie. It felt very deaf. You know what I mean? It felt heavy-handed. And when we go into more of the plot points, I'll discuss one of the most disgusting marketing advertisements I've seen since, naming your baby Turok and we'll give you free Turok games forever. This movie into itself, when it first launched, I had zero expectation. I had zero expectation for once I start hearing things, you know what I mean? And being in the business that we are in as pop culture podcasters, you kind of have to keep your ear to the ground with this stuff, right? So it's non-escapable, and I was just kind of like, I'm just going to wait. I want to wait until I didn't actually watch this until it debuted on Disney Plus. I waited that whole time.
Middle of January. I was not a day one watcher, and I was not in a rush to see it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I'm just gonna see it when I see it. And I went to see it with a good friend of mine, and I walked out. And I'm just gonna be honest, because my feelings then and my feelings now are very different about the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And when I walked out, I looked at him and I said, I don't think I can call Star Wars my favorite thing anymore.
It's kind of that thing. I felt the same way about Endgame, and my family made a big thing about Endgame. My entire family went to go see it. My grandmother, all my immediate cousins. It was like 10 of us, and I'm the comic book guy of the family, and the rest of them seemed to like it. They seemed to enjoy it, and I didn't. I was so conflicted about that movie, and I remember when this started coming around, I was like, the main crux of me not seeing it immediately was that I didn't want to feel like that again. It was an ugly feeling. I'm sitting in a Red Robin's looking into my soda. And I'm just like in deep morose. Like I am in pure dread. And the rest of my family having a good time eating. I'm like playing with my food. Like, you all right? Like, that movie didn't sit well with me, man. It just didn't. I don't know what it is. I got to think about it. And I was like, I'm in no rush to feel like that again. So I didn't rush to see this. But upon first viewing, like you said, it's not hard. It wasn't as bad as some of the fanboys who make it seem, but I get it. You know what I mean?
I mean, and just gonna get into it. Like walking out, there were so many potholes, so many plot holes that, yeah, you can read the book or the comic. Yeah, that's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Film, and it's a 2-hour, 20-minute film, and you didn't explain that at all. Or at least if you did, it's a very, very poor job of explaining, oh, the Emperor's back. Like, I'm sorry.
Oh, you didn't.
Upon my third viewing, I'm still rolling my eyes at how they just presented it. And it's,
okay. That's a good opening to my first talking point. So you didn't attend the Star Wars X Fortnite event, which released the recording of Palpatine announcing his return to the galaxy?
No.
Did you know that that's how they did that?
No, that's not how I knew. No, absolutely not. But now that you mention it in my head, I had always remember hearing I remember looking at my buddy and going, yeah, there was a radio, and I remember hearing the voice or them saying, or the Emperor's voice and people saying, oh, the Emperor's back. And it just pissed me off. But 3 viewings, I didn't see that in the movie. So I'm like, oh, I just must have imagined that. So I'm actually feeling validated now.
Yeah, you didn't miss anything. It's because if you weren't in attendance to the Fortnite event, you wouldn't have known that the dead speak. And Palpatine came back via this very, at the time, very popular video game. That's how they decided to bring back the pivotal character of Star Wars lore. It's that way. And that was the marketing the technique that I mentioned earlier that was just disgusting to me.
No wonder I was confused when you said that, because I didn't know what you were talking about.
Yeah.
And, even now, I'm glad we're doing this podcast so far away, because I was emotional. I was heated. Fine, call me a fanboy, whatever. It was my favorite thing ever. And, they didn't ruin it once. They ruined it 1.5 times.
No. I'm not, like I said,
it was rough.
Like I said, there are positives to this film.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I want to go, and, going through this film, and I have my big old fat notes, and there are a couple of things that stood out to me in regards to the positives of this film. And we'll of course go into the negatives, but I would like to take a second to really go into what you liked about the movie, like what parts made you geek out or what parts made you feel nostalgic. You know what I mean?
Very simple. Upon my second and third viewing, and upon second and third viewing, there are intricacies in the acting that you don't necessarily pick up on screen, and it's fan freaking fantastic. There are, well, especially when you're being emotional about what you're seeing on the screen. But I want to throw out some props to Daisy Ridley. Like, fantastic acting job. And I've never been a big Adam Driver, Kylo Ren guy. Like, the entire thing has just always been not right for me. His acting, the character, they never meshed well. They didn't really necessarily mesh well in this either, but there were some inflection points in his acting, in his facial expressions, that really took the story to the nth level. And what I mean by that is, like, when they're sitting on after their lightsaber battle in the awesome epic water, and they're sitting there, and she's like, she saves him. You're watching that the first time, that doesn't make sense. You're like, what the F is going on? Why? And then she says something, I did want to take your hand, but I wanted to take Ben's hand. And you don't catch that upon first viewing. You don't catch that upon second viewing. You just don't catch it. Like, the facial expression they both have, and you're like, oh, so now that makes the entire third act start to make a tad bit more sense. And I have to fault JJ with this because it's a big moment. You gave it a sentence or two and set up the third act of your movie off of this sentence or two that was like a snapshot after this amazing battle. It was very confusing upon second watch. Love it.
I'm on the opposite side of the spectrum where I've always felt that Adam Driver's been carrying this movie, this whole sequel trilogy on his back the entire time. Like, they don't give him a lot to work with, but like you said, he has certain facial tics and certain acting kind of body language.
He's a good actor.
He's the best actor in the movie. You know what I mean? He's, and like, he doesn't have a lot to work with, but I find the character of Kylo Ren / Ben Skywalker far more interesting than Daisy Ridley's Rey. I can't stand Rey as a character.
You see, I'm opposite. I love Rey as a character, and I love what Daisy Ridley does with her. And even upon second, third viewing, the ending, I'm not going to spoil the very ending if you haven't watched it, but the ending, like,
my problem,
still really dumb, but whatever.
See,
her when you think about her journey from The Force Awakens to now, it's like, man, she's a pretty good job.
But she has no journey. That's the problem with this character for me, is that she is a Star Wars protagonist without conflict. She's a Star Wars protagonist without growth.
She's been all alone. And I was thinking about this last night. She's been all alone. Think about it. You go back to the Clone Wars. Ben had Yoda, Qui-Gon, whatever. Freaking Anakin had Obi-Wan. Luke had freaking Ben. Everyone had one. She was left with literally a broken Luke. She was left with a broken Luke and Kylo Ren effing with her head. And it's like, oh no, she's had to do this by herself. And this is from the third watch where I'm like, oh, you know what? This is starting to come along. It's starting to make some sense.
No, I don't agree with that.
Who helped her?
In the first film,
mm-hmm.
Rey is aided by both Finn and I forget his
Jedi.
name.
As a Jedi.
As a Jedi.
Journey as a Jedi.
Her journey began with the little old alien on that one planet where she was given Luke's lightsaber, and she got whispers from the Force. That's how it all began. It started with the whisper.
Okay.
And she had no training, which is hence The Last Jedi, which she had training from Luke Skywalker.
That's a broken Luke Skywalker. The dude was broken. He broke his connection to the Force. That's not like, dude, if you get a broken manager, someone who's been a manager of people and they are now broken, and now they manage you, and it's not the same shell of a person. Would you agree or disagree?
I would disagree because she's still getting training, and it wasn't complete training because she completed her training with Leia.
Completed her training with Leia, but Leia's journey on screen isn't that of any substance.
It's not. That's a problem.
As a Jedi.
That's
and,
part. You know, that's part of my problem with the character.
She was left to do that on her own, as my feeling.
But how is she as efficient Jedi as these others, even more so efficient, without any of the training or the work?
I missed the beginning. I missed the beginning of what you said.
So how is Rey, who's apparently the most talented and most, I would say, force efficient Jedi ever, even on par with these other highly trained Jedi in the form of Anakin and Luke, even more powerful and even more apt than they are?
No, this is exactly my point. First off, I'm going to disagree with you as the most powerful. That's going to be Anakin. That was told in the story.
She was shooting Force lightning and taking down skies.
Hold on.
Really?
Hold on. She's Palpatine's blood. She had his Force powers. That's where the lightning comes from. That's where the pull to the dark side comes from.
She mastered levitation.
Now, in answer
she
to
mastered
question,
force healing. She mastered beast trick.
Listen. Hear me out. This is my point. Upon third viewing, when you think about it, be with me. Be with me. Her journey was all about having a 1,000 generation of Jedi living within her now.
Okay.
That was the journey. It was repeated over and over and over. Palpatine's power mixed with that. Look, man, I'm with you. I walked out saying the thing can't be my favorite thing. You know me. You've heard me complain about this movie. I can hardly believe it. But upon this viewing, I'm going, no, some of this is starting to actually make a little sense. And, I'm going to fault JJ because one of the complaints is that the movie moves at a clip, bro.
Well, yeah, that's part of one of the issues. But to stay on topic with Rey, until you were about to just flat out move on, is that the character gets everything without the education or sacrifice of anything. You know what I'm saying? She's
alone. There's no
that doesn't matter. She's not alone. She's like you just said, she had the force of 1,000 Jedi behind her.
Correct, but
that's not alone.
She did not have. Oh man, why didn't Ben tell me? Oh, sometimes things aren't your perception. She didn't have Yoda.
She had Leia.
She had broken Luke and General.
You keep saying broken Luke, but we see full training montages on the planet.
Dude.
He was training her properly.
Broken Luke.
He wasn't half training her.
Okay. If he wasn't broken Luke, why'd they make a point to show in the third film him lifting his freaking X-Wing out with the big music? Ta-da! Yes, he finally reached his journey after he dead. Don't get me started on what they did with Luke. They did Luke dirty. All types of dirty.
The one thing about this movie, and
yes,
this would be a good segue, is that the movie completely removes, as it builds stakes, it removes stakes at the same time. Every single stake in this film is walked back. Luke's catharsis in his breaking of the faith of the Jedi as a faith is completely walked back. Rey's consequence of accidentally killing Chewie is walked back. C-3PO's mind wipe and sacrifice for the betterment of the Republic and for the Rebels Alliance is walked back. Even Ben's ascension to a Jedi status is met with death and non-growth. Like, there's no stake to any of it because the film constantly doesn't want you to feel any kind of attachment to failure. In every single Jedi, in every single Star Wars up to this trilogy, the protagonist has faced failure. Anakin, we can talk all day about his list of failures. Luke, in Empire, he didn't heed Yoda's warning, and he went to fight Vader, lost his Cloud City. He that was his failure. They gave Rey an opportunity to have a growth point failure, which I thought was interesting. You lost control, you killed Chewie. Okay, that's something you can grow on and embolden yourself to be better. But then you walk it back, and like half an hour later, no, Chewie's fine. Not even. And
I was looking for that because I've missed it each time I've watched it. And I'm like, where do they explain this? And then they explain it like 2 scenes later.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, I can't back Rey because Rey is exactly what The Last Jedi was fighting against, is that, your lineage shouldn't supersede, you know what I mean, the balance of the Force. She is completely out of balance Force-wise. You know what I mean?
Yes, and she's had no one there to like discuss that with her either. And don't give me this Carrie Fisher nonsense, bro.
It's the truth, man.
You're showing me 1 or 2 scenes and telling me that she's a Jedi Master.
Like you said, this movie moves at it. This movie moves at a clip. There's no time.
And this is what I'm saying.
If J.J. Abrams would have had Last Jedi to himself, I'm sure Leia would have been all through that movie.
If Leia had survived, she would have been all through the movie. I'm just saying, I'm not disagreeing with you about some of the merits of the movie.
He calls her master.
Dude, and I wrote it down. Look, I wrote it down.
Dude.
My first note I made was, hold on. Shit, I lost it. The first note I made was General, Master, and Princess. That's a lot of responsibility, bro.
Leia's bomb, dude. Leia was a secret. Leia was a pocket Jedi. We had no idea.
She didn't mention Master last.
She wasn't her master. She wasn't her master at that point.
Oh God, no! But she floated out of oxygen. Don't get me started.
Yeah, she was a pocket Jedi master. We never knew.
All I'm doing is like,
we didn't know.
I'm telling you that some of what doesn't make sense upon the first viewing, and like I said at the beginning, intricacies. I can't say this word.
That's okay.
Intricacies of this movie start to stand out, which makes me start to appreciate it a tad bit more than I had. Because at first I was just angry. Angry, man. And now, no. I'm actually almost excited. I'm actually looking forward to going through and watching the entire thing.
I agree with you that this movie has insane attention to detail. It's all packed in. But the problem with that is that it's one slice of pizza. It's not a full pizza for you to work through. It's one slice of pizza with every single topping in the building slapped on top of it.
That's JJ's fault.
And that is a fault. That's a fault. That's a pacing issue. Yeah, that's an issue with pacing. And that's something like, okay, that's a cool moment where Chewie got his medal. It happens 0.5% of the time. Oh, Poe has a girlfriend that's actually some cool bounty hunter. We see her for 10 seconds of the movie.
Also, still not a big Poe guy. Like
Poe's okay.
Oscar Isaac. Like again, I'm like,
Poe's okay.
Whatever, man.
He's fine. They have nothing to do. Finn has nothing to do in this movie.
Nothing to do. Pointless. I mean, I again, there are flaws.
Don't get me started on Finn, dude.
Like, I just turned around and I see this badass scene when she slices his lightsaber or his spacecraft, and I'm going, that is pretty damn awesome.
I want to give shout outs to Finn as a character for getting the biggest shaft in movie history. Like, this guy went from cover of the poster holding a lightsaber to he went from Vegeta to Piccolo. He went from Vegeta to like Krillin in 2 seconds. It's all because of marketing. They could not have a lead African American Jedi. Couldn't happen. Too many markets didn't like it. So they sandbagged this character to the point where the actor himself felt a certain way about it. And it's apparent throughout all these movies. In The Last Jedi, we had no inkling that he was force sensitive. But in this one, he has a feeling.
But we had an inkling in The Force Awakens.
Yeah, because
It's
100%.
You know,
It's
but
just
let's
that Ryan Johnson threw it away. He didn't.
and
He didn't want it.
and I find myself wondering, and I can't help but find myself wondering, man, I wonder what would have happened had JJ had that second movie. I wonder where we would all be right now. Or Ryan Johnson had 1 and 3. Whatever. Your story. I don't care how it goes. But one vision.
Or this movie had a consistent director with a consistent vision.
Correct.
Maybe that would have made the movie better. Maybe.
Much better. Because they're disjointed at best. And the pacing's all off. And I love JJ. Probably my favorite director.
One thing
right now, but it's a bit of a hot mess. But there are some really there's a lot of good stuff.
There's a lot of good stuff. Like one thing I really loved, and I kind of alluded to it earlier, was that there's a lot of love to Knights of the Old Republic in this movie. A lot of the powers that Rey and Palpatine utilize are abilities in those games. Like I mentioned earlier, Rey just learns force healing. Never seen before on screen. Okay, great. Rey learns Beast Trick, where she communicates with that creature to kind of lull it to a place of complacency where she can heal it.
I don't have as much of a problem with that one, man. Like
I like it. It's a positive to me.
Okay, all right.
It's a positive to me. Palpatine uses Death Field at the end of the movie to sap their energy. Death Siphon. These are all abilities from KOTOR. I'm like, okay, we're getting some they're using quote unquote non-canon lore to bring into the fold. And I'm like, okay, these are Jedi powers. She levitates. She literally could fly if she really wanted to. She could.
Apparently.
And that's kind of, and is it that potent Palpatine DNA that's fueling? She's just a Force beast, through this whole time, apparently,
Luke was super strong in the Force for being just a freaking farm kid. The dude could fly a freaking X-Wing into the damn Death Star and take a shot without a freaking computer and be like, use the Force, Luke. I'll take a breath and shoot it. Oh, it went in and the entire thing blew up. I'm a hero.
To me, the difference with Luke and Rey is that a lot of his Force abilities were passive, right? Like, I think that Luke had some of that Force precognition, which is how he could do all that, right?
Right.
But Rey's abilities were like, you kind of have to know how to do that. And there's even between her and Ben having the Force teleportation, where they can transfer items from across the galaxy to each other.
That came.
That's insane, dude.
Their duality.
That is so broken.
What is it? The duality in the Force.
What do they call it? They called it like a schism or something like that in the Force or something. I can't remember exactly. Palpatine said it a couple times.
Yeah, even Rin said it. Yeah, anyway. They're duality in the Force. They're the two sides of the same coin, which is look, if you're reaching, and this is what I did.
Neo and Agent Smith.
The
Neo and Agent Smith.
It's, same side of different coins. So they were able to do some
crazy stuff in the Force.
I mean, both their powers started healing the Emperor. Or can we just skip over the Emperor?
No, we got to talk about the Emperor, Doug. We have to talk about Palpatine. We have to talk about his weird Chancellor Snoke growth labs. We have to talk about his Sith hype men in the stands, dude.
Okay.
We have to talk about Exegol and how it's this ultra Sith, the super Sith planet that has 8.
Cool.
Exegol is a cool location. It is cool.
I would like to think that if you were a Sith Emperor or Empress, you would chill in Exegol and be like, yeah, this is awesome, man.
But where did he get the 5 billion Ultra Star Destroyers?
The Ultra Star Destroyers and the Gladiator Pit and the Game of Thrones chair.
Yeah, man.
Upon 3rd, 4th, 5th viewing, I'm not expecting to change for me.
Yeah, man. Like, yes, you
Unnecessary.
need it's like, the joke in Clerks where they have to hire private contractors to rebuild the second Death Star.
Yeah,
It's the same thing. Like, you need dudes to make those, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, they can't just appear through the Force, man.
I mean, he
It doesn't
just
make any sense.
raised them out of the ground. I guess there's been a bunch of Death Stars that have fallen and just raised them all up.
And, I made a note that the Sith Wayfinder looks a whole lot like a Sith holocron. You know about holocrons?
Absolutely.
Why didn't they just call it a holocron?
I thought that they were just naming it something else. You know,
Just so they didn't have to pay attention to the old school canon. Kind of.
I guess it could have been. Yeah, it was called something else because in my mind it's a holocron because that's what a holocron is.
Now I have a crazy fanboy idea that I want to pass your way. See what you think about it. Based upon solely the movies, do you think the Sith exist outside of Palpatine?
Based solely on the movies.
Do you think he made Darth Plague, the lessons of Darth Plagueis, all those things? Do you think he just made all that up?
No, I mean,
Or they were just him?
Based outside the canon?
Yeah, just on the movies. Just from episode 1 to episode 9. Does the Sith exist
Sith
outside of
around? Yeah.
Outside of Palpatine.
There's freaking 5,000 of them just chanting back and forth. We're in Exegol.
But what about the rule of 2?
Don't ask me, man. Hey,
that's what I'm saying. Like, based upon the rule of 2, is
not supposed to be?
Is Palpatine lying?
You're saying based on the rule of 2, does Exegol even supposed to exist?
Are those guys Sith? Are they trained in the Force? Do they all have lightsabers? We don't know. No?
What are they? Just random people living in Sith Exegol?
Are they thousands of Snoke clones?
I don't know. You know what I mean?
These are the questions, Doug.
These are things I've had to let go.
You had to let go, dude.
I've had to let it go because how they explained the Emperor, not a big fan of. How they explained...
They didn't explain it. That's the problem.
Emperor. Well, I mean, they did. He was cloned. That's the deal. He was cloned. And it's in the canon. It came out in the Star Wars Encyclopedia. They literally had a paragraph about it that said, oh, yeah, well, those people in the stands, the Sith people, they went, found his body, and then brought him to Exegol, and then put him in the regeneration pits and regenerating him. And they put that in the paragraph. And a lot of people are not happy.
I have a weird kind of feathered dinosaurs not being in Jurassic Park kind of cloning question. Vader throws Palpatine into the giant shaft and he super explodes, right? Mm-hmm. If you were to clone yourself, why wouldn't you clone a younger version of yourself? Why would you clone the jacked up, old, decrepit version?
Because they used his body. That's what I'm saying.
But they used his DNA to clone him. Couldn't they just clone a 25-year-old Palpatine?
Hey, man.
Why would you clone yourself all jacked up and old and grizzled unless that's the same body?
You're going to have to go back to the Clone Wars and figure out all that stuff. I'm sure that there was a problem with the DNA transfer, and that's why they don't try to do it anymore, I guess. I don't know answers to these questions.
I'm preaching to the choir here. I know I am. These are just plot holes that I find irreparable. The supporting cast in this, you have all your favorites. Billy D. Williams is awoken from his cryo sleep. I
was glad to see him. Each time I see him, It's as forced as it is. It works.
You got to.
I'll take it.
Seeing Carrie Fisher on screen was jarring. I can't say it wasn't. Given circumstance. Seeing characters really underutilized, like Rose, was completely buried in this movie. I said my piece about Finn. I think they could have done more with Poe. The lack of any kind of love interest is weird, man.
I'm good with it. We can skip it. It's fine.
Okay. It's a Star Wars thing, though.
Honestly, no, screw the Star Wars thing. It's terrible in the first trilogy. The second trilogy, Han and frickin' Leia rocked. So
I'm
that's
saying they couldn't even
the
try.
third one. We can just skip it, man. They did try. They tried with Finn and Rose. Then they tried with Finn and Rey. Then they
tried with Ben and Ray.
Ben. Oh God.
The worst part of the movie is
I got
them
up and
kissing.
walked out. I got up and walked out. I'm not even joking.
She is repulsed by this man for the entire trilogy, but now she gives him a deep, soulful kiss, a kiss goodbye. Like, I was 2 seconds from going like full French, and I'm like, where is this coming from? Where?
I got up
where?
in the theater and walked out.
I was like, why is this here? Who is this catering to? Anybody who's been watching these movies is not catering to them. Because they understand that Ray has hated this man's guts from the first time she's seen him.
And I don't have the notes because I
doesn't make sense.
You know, and I probably should have went and got some of JJ's quotes defending his choices because, you know, I'm kind of beating him up here. But yeah, he said something like, oh, well, it had to do with their duality in the Force.
What?
Yeah, they were. Yeah, hold on. I'm looking for it.
Would that make them more like siblings than lovers?
Yeah.
You know, like it would be more of like a brother and sister kinship rather than making out. You know, what?
A kiss of. No, that can't be it because he explained it. Go look for it. It's not romantic. It's because of their duality in the Force. There's just a lot of emotion that's going on there. It was almost uncontrollable.
Okay, I'm gonna give you a hot take, and I want your gut reaction to it.
Right.
Was the sequel trilogy a mistake?
Yeah, I didn't need it. Like, not like this.
Did it add anything to the lore?
I will take what it added to the lore.
Did it elevate? Did it prop the series for a shining forward direction?
Well, in that instance, I have to talk about the end, and I guess I will talk about the end since we've spoiled some already. Look,
that's fine. Yeah.
Here's the deal, man. So the Skywalker saga's over, right?
Over.
It's over. We're done with the Skywalker. That's what they said. I'm not. This is what they said. So at the end of the movie, a random person comes along, asks what your name is. She says Skywalker.
Yep.
And then shows her with her own new badass gold lightsaber.
Yep.
But isn't it over?
It's over. The bloodline is over, officially over, right? Which was a tainted bloodline to begin with. But you know,
they can't call her Sky. Like,
yeah, they can. She's Rey Skywalker, dude.
But then the Skywalker trilogy isn't over. The Skywalker lineage still lives on.
You see how they could have their cake and eat it too?
No.
You see how they could have their cake and eat it too?
That left me feeling, but you guys were hard stop. No, this is the end of this story.
This movie put this franchise in such a position that their only way forward is backwards. Right? We're not seeing episode 10 for like a generation.
Yeah, no, they're going 3,000 years in the past to what the High
Council.
No, what is it?
I think it's the High Council or something like that.
The new era of
the new era of Star Wars is going to be all in the past.
It's
I think it's the High Council. I may be wrong though. You know what?
Project Luminous. It's the High whatever. There's pictures of it out there. The High Republic.
The High Republic. Thank you.
So they're going like 3,200 years before the prequels.
Yep. Which is not as far back as the Old Republic, but still, there's enough room to see a young Yoda, I guess.
And then I guess you bring back, Rey in another generation. And then the Skywalkers are back. I'm still going to have feelings about this when I'm 7.
Rey is going to be a part of this whatever new Jedi Council. They're going to literally make a Skywalker ranch full of Jedi that she's going to train. And you're going to have a new protagonist. And she's going to be the old, wise Jedi Master.
But I thought this was the end. All right, fine. Whatever.
It's the end of the Jedi saga, but they're going to start a new saga with some
Look,
other gifted Jedi.
When we talk about Star Wars as a whole, here's what I'll tell you. Star Wars, I'm still going to call it my favorite thing because, frankly, I don't have anything else to take besides tacos. Tacos are my favorite thing, but Star Wars would be right up there with it. So, in a capsule after this movie, this came out at the same time Mandalorian came out, and I could have just as well done without this and been happy with Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Everything that they've talked about kind of moving forward, and I'm just going to call a spade, being me, I have not really cared too much about, because this last trilogy for me was done with such slapstick execution that it doesn't leave me yearning. You remember when you wanted another Star Wars movie? Like before in the prequels hit, like Return of the Jedi, we would always talk, man, wouldn't it be cool this? Man, wouldn't it be cool that? Well, I don't think I have any of that left.
Here, and you make a good point. And Star Wars is always, and I've always said, Star Wars is always best when it makes you miss it, right? I think Disney's biggest problem, our biggest misstep with Star Wars, the handling of Star Wars since it was acquired by Disney, is that they wanted to make it a annual event. Yeah. Star Wars is not best digested and as an annual event because it requires so much nostalgia to fuel it. You know what I mean?
And honest to God, I was one of those people saying, no, it'll work, man. Remember when they were going to do 2 a year? And I was like, no, it'll work. That's fine.
I was always saying no. Yeah. No, man. It's because it's not enough meat to the, and I hate to say this, it's not enough variety that they are willing to do within this universe to have that kind of platform. You know what I mean? Truth be told, the story that the prequel trilogy tells is the story that the original trilogy tells. It's a story that the sequel trilogies tells. It tells the exact same story, in a little bit different in every way.
How many Death Stars did we get?
How many chosen ones do we need? I mean, how many villain heel turns do we get? And Star Wars is best. It's been a decade since the last Star Wars. Everybody is hyped. What's it gonna be? Star Wars is best digested that way. You can have side things. You can have TV series, video games, comics, anything you want. But the films, the numbered trilogy is special because it was a cultural event when a new Star Wars came out. Episode 1 came out, the Earth exploded. It's been 30 years since the last Star Wars. The Force Awakens comes out. It's a cultural event. It's been 20 years since the last Star Wars, right? Mm-hmm. But when you start force feeding us the same story over and over and over, it loses that magic.
Even with the same elements, like the same timing.
That's what I'm saying. It's the same beats. It's the same story beats. It's the same. It's nostalgia.
Poe and Han, like their timing, I couldn't get it out of my head, and I'm like, why is Poe's timing the same as Han's timing? That wasn't necessary. You know what I mean? It wasn't a necessary choice.
And the thing is, it's like nostalgia is like a rubber band. You can only stretch it so far before it snaps back at you. And what happened with this series and where it stands now is the rubber band snapped. And Disney does not know what to do with it. So so now they're saying, you know what? We're not going to move forward. We can't move forward right now. We're going to take a step back where things are so removed that we're going to get a truckload of young, intrepid, content creators, directors, writers to do whatever you want. And whatever sticks is what we're going to move forward with.
I will say that Mandalorian so far, I mean, trust me, they can jack up season 2. It's not hard to jack up a television series. Game of Thrones, anyone? Dexter, anyone? The list is long and mighty. At any rate, Mandalorian is probably the best, live action that they've put out since
Yeah.
Return of the Jedi. And that's just me calling a spade a spade.
I laugh. I playfully call The Mandalorian I playfully say The Mandalorian's A New Hope for Star Wars. Pun completely intended, because it's different and it feels different and it feels grimy in episode. It feels Empire Strikes Back-y, if that makes sense.
It feels authentic.
It feels grounded.
World feels authentic.
It feels tangible, you know,
and it's not the pacing, like, compared to Rise of Skywalker. Because I actually, when I saw this with my buddy, he had not seen Mandalorian, and he didn't know anything about Mandalorian. So I wound up watching Mandalorian through a second time with him and his family after seeing Rise of Skywalker. And he's like, dude, why is this just so much better than the movie? And I'm going, it's just more grounded. It's more real. Like, you feel it. Whereas the on screen, it was just popcorn.
Yeah, and that's
fun.
Yeah. I mean, Last Jedi in a white room is fun. It's genetically engineered to be fun. There's a lot of fun moments. There's a lot of good action scenes. It's pretty. It's one of the prettiest movies that came out in 2019. When you have industrial lights and magic working it, of course, it's going to look great. But the meat and substance to it is almost insulting to the fan base. And I'm not going to say that the Star Wars fan base is the most logical and mild-tempered group. In fact,
you're not.
They are, in fact, the complete opposites. The ravenous wolves that will send death threats and attack and spit and claw at anyone.
I will not.
You know what I mean?
And don't you do it either.
No, anyway. Man, I'm not that guy, dog. You know, there's different degrees of devotion. But what I will say about the rise of the Skywalker is much like the Endgame, it's put the series in a precarious position where there's no future. There's no hint of hope because they closed that door so definitively that there's nowhere for us to look toward. There's no Babe Ruth pointing towards the stands, right? You know,
I honestly didn't know you felt that way about Endgame.
Yeah, Endgame.
That's interesting, man. Yeah. Like
Endgame did Marvel the MCU so bad because it was so definitive that in people's brains it's over, right? Like it was so definitive.
I will tell you, much like
there's no hope for the future. From you know,
all of the talk about Marvel, I'm like, yeah, I guess I don't really need any of that. Like,
I'm good,
no,
and this is coming from
good.
I bleed Marvel comics. You know what I'm saying? But I will tell you that the way Endgame ended, I have no hope for the future of the MCU. I don't know because they're not giving us anything. They're not giving us any hope. Shang-Chi, you know, Doctor Strange 2, that'll be fun. Spider-Man 3, okay. But there's no clear divisive line to the future. There's no Thanos smiling back at the end of Avengers. You know, like, ooh, this is the end game. Right? No, there's nothing of that.
But there has to be a beginning to something. You know what I mean? You can't always... There needs to be a definitive end, and then there needs to be something that starts anew. And with Star Wars and Marvel, I'm just saying that...
There's nothing.
I'm not sure that whatever is coming new is going to be something I necessarily have to have.
And what's very parallel to Marvel and Star Wars, which is both companies at the time were not owned by Disney at the time, is they each had a quintessential breakout film. I'm Skywalker, I'm here to rescue you. That was the quintessential beginning. I Am Iron Man. That was the quintessential beginning that sparked the future. They have laid no kindling. There's no fire. There's no sticks to incite excitement for either franchise because of how definitive their endings were. You know, you can't stop the train, right? Like,
yeah,
you can't stop the train once it's going.
No, everything you're saying is true. It's just a tad bit depressing when you look at it with that light, and I hadn't quite considered that. But it's definitive, and the High Republic going 200 years earlier, like what?
is an indication of that divinity.
Yeah.
They don't know how to move forward. The Rise of the Skywalker puts them in a position where they are literally stymied on how to go forward. What do we do? The fans didn't like this. What do we do? We have to appeal to all audiences. What do? We got to go backwards and just make things up, whatever we want. Because building on top of this house of sand, it's going to make people just more mad, right? We're not going to see a numbered Star Wars for a very long time, probably 20 years.
If you said Star Wars Episode 10 was coming out next year,
I would be livid.
I would go see it, but
I would livid.
I would be asking, what in the world do you plan on showing me?
What are you doing?
Like,
I would be livid.
What in the world? Who came to you and said, I got a brilliant idea that's going
what kind of crazy
upset people?
What finger of God level script is that? Where it's like, okay, this is the best script I've read in my entire life.
And interesting thing about the Star Wars world, and it's an interesting media choice, especially in this day and age we live in, is that the High Republic is mostly going to be coming to us in comics,
maybe
books,
video games,
no
movies,
the start of the movies or television show. As far as I know, the Obi-Wan show's still happening. Yep. Question mark there.
Question mark.
And it's like, so you're putting the beginning of your new era in a medium that the mass population generally doesn't use. And I'm just calling it out.
Film is dead? Question mark?
No, a lot of people
film is dead?
Yeah. Film is dead? Question mark. Like if I was going to start a new series or a new era, it'd definitely be on a Disney Plus or a Netflix, something low budget. Get it started, that type of thing, or go high budget, whatever you want to do with it, but make it accessible.
Can you imagine?
How much is a comic? You're a comic buyer. How much is a comic book?
Like $4 or $5.
So you want me to go spend $4 or $5 on approximately how long of a comic book?
They're not looking to launch this via comic. That's the thing. Comics are going to be side issues, things like that. They want it to be in a visual media. Now, would that visual media be via film, given the current climate we are in now, given that no one's been in the theater for about 4 or 5 months? Would you be surprised to see Episode 10 not be a movie, but be a TV series on Disney Plus?
Yes, I would. Episode 10,
the TV series,
will be in a theater. There are some things that aren't going to change. It's going to take people a while to adjust. Like drive-ins used to be a big thing back in the 50s, 60s. Not so much now. Now you're going to have people getting their cars outfitted with the best speakers so that they can watch the newest film out, which is kind of cool. It's kind of retro. Wish it wasn't because of a pandemic, but whatever. But, you tell me, who's been Star Wars favorite thing? Yeah, bro, Episode 10, it's going to be on Disney Plus launching next week.
Crazy.
I am not excited.
Crazy, right?
What? No.
It's like, and that's my thing is that I'm okay with companies playing it close to the vest, right? Like, oh, we want it to be a surprise. Oh, we're in the middle of a pandemic. We can't do the con circuit. But you're not giving us anything, guys. And as a consumer, and like Brian, as someone who's grew up with Star Wars, I went to go see all the special editions with my father. First day, Rama's Chinese Theater, front seat. I'm as big as a Star Wars mark you can think of. I have zero enthusiasm for this series going forward. And I'm saying that with no hyperbole. I do not care. If he pushes another level, I don't give a shit.
It's going
to take something. It's going to literally take something galactic for me to be like, oh yeah, I'm back in.
Them being able to
and I have no idea what that would be.
Them being able to push off the con, I think, was a help to them. Not to have Star Wars Celebration this year and not have the pressure of
having to produce something
out there. Because honestly, even Mandalorian Season 2, I want to see it because they're going to dive into some cool stuff. But it's like, if you wanted to table everything Star Wars related, I'm good with it. You have an idea. You know what I mean?
That's what I'm saying. It would have to be a killer script. It would have to be a killer script, like the best script ever written. Like you said, if they said Episode 10, 2022, I would be livid. I would be like, what are you guys doing? you're not learning anything. You're not learning
No.
anything. Who's directing it? Who's starring in it? Is it a completely new generation? It has to be, right? Because you've bookshelved like 40 years of content. You bookshelved it. There's nothing else to say. The Skywars trilogy, the Skywalker saga is done with Rise of Skywalker.
Well, she's a Skywalker though, and she has a gold lightsaber, and I'm assuming she's not gonna not go on any more adventures.
No one has ever really gone. That's what I'm saying. They're trying to have their cake and eat it too. Is that fair to the? Is that fair? Like, there's nothing more definitive than Endgame. That's more. The Endgame is even more definitive than the Rise of the Skywalker.
Rise of Skywalker, not definitive, not for me, and that's my issue with it. Is they said it was the end, and that's what I was expecting to see. Rey didn't have to die, but she didn't necessarily have to get a new lightsaber either. That
being said, we have to rate this movie. Mm-hmm. You know, Brian, based on our full conversation, we didn't divulge every single thing about this movie. If you want to base your own opinion, it is on Disney Plus. Go watch it, go rent it, check it out, form your own opinion. But what would you rate this film from 0 to 5 Sith Wayfinders? What would you rate this film?
Solid 3.
Ooh,
Solid 3 out of 5. It is a movie that, if you're looking to have a good time with and watch, great. If you're not attached to the Star Wars, if things don't necessarily have to make sense to you, you should enjoy this movie. But if you're looking for the details and the connecting pieces, yeah, it's a 3, man. If that.
It's funny. I'm kind of mentally mapping this episode as we're talking about it. So I've kind of been thinking about my rating, and it's a 3. It's a 3 out of 5. There are some, like I said, I didn't want to make this a complete poo-poo thon, even though it kind of sounds that way. But there are a lot of positive things about this movie. Some of the screen selection and cinematography is beautiful. Of course, the graphics are amazing. Fight scenes are well choreographed, even though Rey just seems to be swinging her lightsaber randomly. Anyway, there's no finesse to it. Whatever. See, I wasn't
trained, bro. Trained.
Trained by Leia. I'm just regurgitating stuff now.
When did you see Leia with a lightsaber besides 2 seconds when she said, "I can't be a freaking Jedi anymore"?
Before the prequels, when did you see Yoda with a lightsaber?
I mean, you at least saw him, and he was good because he's Yoda.
Well, you can't say that. That's not fair. Anyway,
it is fair.
Anyway,
it is fair.
It's not.
He's a human, and he's a little green alien that we know nothing about. It is fair. Anyway, moving on.
It's a 3.5. I totally disagree with that, but we'll be here all day. So it seems like our general consensus is that Star Wars Episode 9, Rise of the Skywalker, is a definitive 3.5 Sith holocrons out of 5. A three Sith holocrons out of 5. Man, this movie, I'm so happy I don't have to talk about Star Wars for a little while. Is that a bad thing?
Yeah, no, there will be no. I mean, we can talk about Mandalorian, but
that's season 2 when that comes out eventually, right?
Yeah, that about covers it.
Where can we find you, man?
You can find me over at Brian J. Wash on Twitter and Wash's Shop on eBay and Brian Washington on YouTube. How about that, huh?
How about that? My man is exploring alternate means that some would deem unnatural. If you like this content... unnatural.
Some of it upon third viewing, I was like, it's good to see him. Anyway.
No, I feel it. If you like this content and want to support it monetarily, you can always do so via our Patreon, which is patreon.com/MOTN. And if you would like to support us non-monetarily, you can always like our content, subscribe to our channels, and comment on our posts because feedback is important. How do we do? Do you agree with us on our collective thoughts on this film? Do we know what we're talking about? Yes, no, maybe so. Love to hear your feedback. So please give us a hello on our Twitter, which is at MNerdiverse, where we'll be posting this. And I'm kind of in a Star Warsy mood, so I'm going to post who was the best Jedi for this episode overall.
Of all time?
Of all time. Best Jedi all time. And I have my favorite Jedi of all time, and I think I'll let that be the last talking point.
Favorite or best?
The best.
Because
the best
there's two different questions.
There's two different. Okay, let's say the best Jedi, the one Jedi who represents what it means to be a Jedi in its purest form. Who was the best Jedi? And I'll let that be our last talking point before we close this bad boy out.
All right.
Who do you think?
That's good. I'm gonna vote, man.
You're gonna vote. I love it.
Yeah,
okay,
go to the votes.
Go to the votes. We'll have this discussion possibly in a future episode. With that, I'd like to thank you, Brian, for joining me on this galactic adventure.
Thank you for having me. Always good to talk Star Wars.
Yes, indeedy. I've, of course, been your host, Mike G. And I will always ask you to look towards the skies. Look towards the skis.